People have no idea how crazy things are about to get. You know, first we started off hearing that Grand Theft Auto 6 could bring price hikes up to $100. Journalists and developers cheering it on. Yes, this is exactly what we need to have happen. Increase the prices. Now the shoe is on the other foot. Journalists and developers and analysts are saying that Grand Theft Auto 6 could very well be a threat to the entire industry. A game so successful and so disruptive that it could shut down entire studios and publishers. This is the most anticipated game of all time, and it could be the most successful game of all time, depending on how things go, and that could be a catalyst to an apocalypse of sorts. Something that's not just going to be felt by the initial release, but could very well freeze the entire industry for months before its release and after its release. We are going to see years of overpromising, under-delivering, and failing to listen catch up to a vast majority of this industry. They have failed to stay competitive, they have gotten complacent, and because of that, one game could bring the world down around them. One game. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the success of Grand Theft Auto. We're going to talk about the behemoth that it became, how it became that way, because we need to understand it to know what it's going to do next. And we're going to talk about how Grand Theft Auto might be so successful, it's going to shut down studios for good. Every Grand Theft Auto launch has been a moment in gaming history, not just a release date, but a cultural flashpoint. GTA 3 launched back in 2001, and it changed everything, setting the blueprint for modern open world games by combining freedom, story, and chaos in a 3D city that truly felt alive. Funny enough, when Rockstar was trying to get funding for their new game, they approached Microsoft, who was preparing to launch the original Xbox, and they were looking for exclusives, but Microsoft actually turned them down, believing that there wasn't a market for something so controversial. And they doubted that Rockstar would even be able to pull it off. That game would then go on to sell 14.5 million copies. That's a number that AAA studios struggle to reach even today, let alone back in 2001. Vice City built on that only a year later with a style over substance attitude that somehow still had both, and it reached 17 million copies sold. And then San Andreas in 2004 expanded the scope massively that it felt like an entirely new genre. They introduced layered systems, character customization, and a layer of exploration that few games have matched even decades later. Each entry didn't just succeed, it set a standard. But GTA's dominance wasn't just commercial, it was cultural. These games didn't just show up on the front page of gaming sites, they made headlines in mainstream news. Politicians were condemning them and celebrities were trying to get featured in them. It was one of the very few series where controversy actually became its marketing, and it worked. GTA wasn't just a game you played, it was something that you had to have an opinion on, even if you never touched a controller. Now, by the time GTA 4 rolled around, the series had already hit sort of a saturation point. Everybody knew what it was, but Rockstar still wanted it to grow even bigger, and they knew if they wanted to do that, the series had to evolve. So they leaned hard into cinematic realism, storytelling, and emotional weight, foreshadowing what we'd later see them perfect in Red Dead Redemption. They overhauled systems like driving and shooting, but more importantly, they had proved that this franchise could be more than just satire, crime, and explosions. It could have soul. That shift in priorities ended up paying off, and that game ended up reaching 28 million copies sold. But then came GTA 5 in 2013, and it wasn't just a hit game, it became one of the most profitable pieces of entertainment media ever made. As of 2025, GTA 5 has sold over 210 million copies, with the Grand Theft Auto franchise as a whole crossing 420 million copies sold. It's not just one of the biggest video game successes of all time, it is one of the most dominant media properties in human history, second only to Minecraft. Just to illustrate how absurd that 210 million copies sold number is, the highest selling Pokemon game of all time, Red, Blue, and Yellow, sold 47 million copies. Pokemon, the world's largest franchise, full stop, as a whole, is only 60 million copies ahead of Grand Theft Auto's total copies sold. That is insane. Now, part of that dominance comes from Rockstar not chasing trends. GTA 5 did its own thing. It offered 3 protagonists, a massive and detailed map, smart comedy, great controls, and an incredibly accurate take on Los Angeles. But what really extended the game's lifespan was GTA Online, a constantly evolving multiplayer ecosystem that in a lot of ways invented what we see in the live service model today, and it changed the entire gaming industry. Earlier games like World of Warcraft, Team Fortress, and even Call of Duty seasonal DLCs experimented with persistent updates and monetization, but GTA Online was the first to blend Rockstar's cinematic single-player legacy with an open-ended, community-driven sandbox supported by a decade of free content and paid drops. It became a second life for millions of players around the world and a blueprint for how publishers could turn a one-time purchase into an ongoing revenue machine. I mean, as of this moment, GTA 5 Legacy and Enhanced Editions are pulling over 180,000 players combined on Steam. Not counting Epic Games Launcher, not counting the Rockstar Launcher, not counting consoles or any other platforms. And it's continued this pace for over a decade. Let that sink in. We know this wasn't just Rockstar's golden touch because they tried it again with Red Dead Online and it didn't stick, despite Red Dead Redemption 2 being one of the most critically acclaimed games of all time, a massive favorite among fans. The online component never reached the same scale. It lacked the same flexibility, the same energy, the same community buy-in. It's not just about making a good game anymore. It's about making one that people want to live in. I mean, if you guys think about it, Rockstar didn't even plan for what became the game's biggest feature, GTA RP. Through modded servers and third-party tools, players carved out entire identities, careers, and communities within GTA Online, completely independent of Rockstar's original vision. These aren't just small niche servers either. They exploded in popularity on Twitch, became homes for professional voice actors, streamers, and even celebrities, and gave rise to some of the most emergent player-driven storytelling I think we've ever seen in a video game before. While these other studios are trying to spend millions of dollars to manufacture community engagement and force players into predefined seasonal loops, Rockstar accidentally made the perfect sandbox. And the community then turned it into a digital stage. It's living proof that if you give players the freedom and tools instead of a roadmap, well, they'll often build something more compelling than a studio ever could. And I think that's what makes this franchise so powerful. GTA is so chaotic, unfiltered, insolent, and intelligent. It, in a lot of ways, mocks the industry that makes it, even the players that play it, and the world it represents. It connects players across all demographics because it offers something incredibly rare in this industry: freedom. It's both casual and hardcore. It can be a cinematic experience, a sandbox of absurdity, or something deeply social. And that's why when GTA 6 finally lands, it's not just going to compete with other games, it's going to compete with everything else. Streaming shows, blockbuster movies, social media. It's going to dominate the cultural bandwidth again. And I think that's the terrifying part for everyone else, because for all the games that we've seen that have come and gone over the last decade, nothing has maintained a death grip on relevance like GTA 5. It has been nearly 12 years since the initial release, and it's still outperforming new AAA launches. Rockstar hasn't released a mainline game since Red Dead Redemption 2, and they've remained one of the most talked about studios in the world just off of the strengths of 2 games. That's what real power looks like, and the only thing that I could really compare it to is Valve, and that says a lot. Now, I haven't played a Grand Theft Auto since San Andreas, and I just recently went back to go play Grand Theft Auto 5, trying to get some footage for this video, and it's like a time capsule. It is a time capsule for how games used to feel like to play. The character portrayals, the tight controls, the dialogue, the storytelling, the atmosphere, everything a player wants out of a game or expects out of a game is here. And the elements that we expect the least, well, they just only add to the immersion. The act of playing the game feels fantastic, but then you find yourself golfing, playing tennis, or maybe you're just chilling on the couch watching your favorite TV shows like Kung Fu Rainbow Laser Force, where conservative heroes are trying to fight to keep everybody virgins, or Impotent Rage, the liberal superhero that's trying to take down corporate corruption through tantrums while also owning their own multi-billion-dollar company. You know, everybody wants what Rockstar has, but nobody's been able to recreate it. Not for a lack of trying. Dozens of studios have tried to take their shot at being the next big crime sandbox, from Watch Dogs to Sleeping Dogs to Saints Row, and we got a couple of good games out of it as a result, but those results always end up feeling synthetic. They copy the structure without understanding the spirit. They try to capture the edge without earning the credibility. What they miss is that GTA isn't just about gameplay or genre, it's about tone, cultural timing. It's a studio that mocks the very systems it profits from. You can't fake that, and you can't buy it either. The reality of the matter is, Rockstar didn't build GTA with quarterly targets in mind. They built it with an attitude. There's a level of self-awareness in these games that most publishers would kill well before it even left the concept phase, except for maybe Cyberpunk 2077. GTA is one of the last remaining franchises where writing is still allowed to punch in every direction, where the world is offensive, ridiculous, and absurd on purpose. And I think that's what gives it life, because that is life in a lot of ways. That's what makes the satire feel earned rather than forced, and why so many other games end up falling flat. They're scared to say something real, or worse, they don't even know how to. Rockstar has built a reputation for itself, one that we don't normally see in the AAA side of this industry, not just for quality, but for consistency. They rarely speak, but when they do, people listen. Player expectations are through the roof right now, but nobody seems down on the game. And even with all of the AAA flops that everybody's been seeing, well, everybody just has a feeling that this game is going to deliver. And while normally I'm a skeptic, after playing Grand Theft Auto 5 and having played some of their previous games, I get it. There's something deeply human about Grand Theft Auto that no other studio can seemingly replicate. And I don't think people fully grasp how big of a moment the launch of Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be. I didn't even realize it until I started looking into the numbers and looking at the data. And how did I not see this coming? We are talking about a game that is financially, culturally, historically, definitively the game. It is one of the very few games on a very short list that I know almost everybody in the world has either heard about or played. And you can't say that about a lot of games, even if they're not gamers. If I shrink that down to just gamers, everybody's played it. I'm sure there's a few people that haven't. That is a very, very small subsection of the audience. That's crazy. That's how impressive and significant this IP is, while also being the most controversial and offensive game ever made in a lot of ways. We're talking about a game that sold 220 million copies, bridging the gap between race, age, gender, any definitive trait. Anyone can play and buy this game. And what's funny is that flies in the face of everything that this industry stands for. Because at the end of the day, when any of these companies that are trying to reach a wider audience, and I've talked about this in the past, almost all of them, that boils down to softening the edges, tone policing, or just general sensitivity. And then you look at this game. If you look at the top 10 best-selling games of all time, they're almost all E for everyone or T for teen. And then there's Grand Theft Auto, right there in second place. You know, people dropped their jaws when they saw Black Myth Wukong reach 20 million copies sold in a month. This game could very well sell 20 million copies in a day. And if they release day and date on PC, they double that number. And that's not the route they're going for whatever reason, likely because they want to double dip. It's going to work. You know, I talk about how I don't want these companies to be greedy, but if you're going to be greedy, you have to earn it. Rockstar's earned it. That's how this works. But that's the reason why this industry is terrified of this game right now, because there's no one that is out there, no game that is out there that can stand up to this thing. And that's the bed that they've made for themselves. This game is going to capture conversation. It's going to take over social media, and it's going to blot out the sun in a lot of ways. There's just going to be no getting around it. And because of that, because of how dominant this game is going to be once it releases, well, it's going to cause the collapse of studios, publishers, and games industry-wide. Today, many companies are in a state of absolute fragility financially, creatively, structurally. In the past couple of years, we've seen over 50,000 jobs that have been lost across the entire gaming industry. Developers, artists, designers, people with years of experience are being laid off in the thousands. Entire studios are being shut down. Projects are being canceled mid-development. Publishers consolidating, pivoting, restructuring, whatever corporate term they need to be able to use to say that we made bad bets and now somebody else has to pay for it. And the games that have made it to release, half of them haven't even been able to find an audience. Some of the biggest AAA launches that we've seen over the past couple of years, games with enormous budgets and years of hype behind them, have turned out to be massive disappointments, not just financially, but in the eyes of players that they were meant to serve. The trust is gone, the margins are thin, and the cost for failure is higher than ever. So when a game like Grand Theft Auto 6 enters into the conversation, a game so massive, so dominant, and so all-consuming that it can literally reshape the release calendar for an entire year, it doesn't just make people nervous, it makes them panic. Because one wrong move in the shadow of a game like this, that's all it takes. In an article written by Tyler Wilde, a PC gamer, titled "The Specter of a GTA 6 Delay Haunts the Games Industry, Some Companies Are Gonna Tank If They Guess Wrong," says analyst, will GTA 6 release in 2025? That's what everyone in the business wants to know. Tyler Wilde writes, "The near future plans of many game studios depend on whether or not Grand Theft Auto 6 actually releases this year, and making the wrong guess could be disastrous for some of them," says Ben Porter, director of consulting of game industry intelligence firm Newzoo. If you're a game company who's holding its breath waiting for GTA 6 to get out and then it gets delayed by 3, 4, 5, 6 months, what do? Said Porter in an interview with PC Gamer at GDC 2025 this week. You either have to be able to launch in that big black hole that's been left open now, or you have to extend your run date by an additional 6 months. I'm certain some companies are going to tank as a result of that, right? GTA 6 is currently scheduled to launch on consoles this fall. PC is still to be decided, annoyingly, but it's so common for games to be delayed that it's easy to imagine it being pushed back to 2026. Cyberpunk 2077 was delayed, Starfield was delayed, Assassin's Creed Shadows was delayed. Big games get delayed a lot. It's common for studios to time their releases to avoid big competitors that are likely to hog the limelight, and there isn't a bigger hog than a new GTA. Even very niche games might want to get out of the way of it, picking release dates in spring or summer of 2026. But if GTA 6 itself is delayed till spring or summer of 2026, those developers could end up having to push their release dates even further out, a setback that could be disastrous for a studio whose finances are already fragile. And given the number of closures we've seen in recent years, financial fragility doesn't seem rare. On the other hand, a last-minute GTA 6 delay could be a big opportunity for anyone who can fill the space with a game that tides over disappointed GTA fans. There's a lot of money riding on what Rockstar decides to do before the end of the year, and not just for Rockstar. One possible clue to the likelihood of a GTA 6 delay is the Borderlands 4 release date, September 23rd, 2025. Why would Take-Two, who owns both Borderlands 4 and Grand Theft Auto 6, put them in competition with each other this fall? Does Borderlands 4 release date mean that GTA 6 is likely to be delayed? It's a sensible guess, but I wouldn't want money riding on it. Porter says there's hope that the games industry as a whole could get a boost from GTA 6's release, which, if nothing else, will probably get a lot of people to upgrade their consoles, but he doubts that the industry execs are all going to be smiles this fall, whatever happens. You hear a lot of people who are saying that GTA 6 is going to rejuvenate the market, said Porter, and I think there's an element of truth to that, but I don't know that it's necessarily going to be universally uplifting. It'll certainly create an effect. It will put eyes back onto the games market from investors and things like that. But everybody that we're talking to, their ships are trying to move out of the way of this big iceberg that is GTA 6. Everybody is pulling their game forward, pushing their game back. This strategy is to get out of the way. So if that's what everybody's behavior is, then how do you think that this is going to rejuvenate the games industry? I'm going to tell it to you guys straight. I think we're going to see some genuinely unfinished games hit the market very soon here. Rushed out the door, not because they're ready, but because they feel like the clock is ticking. Unless Rockstar publicly sets a firm release date for Grand Theft Auto 6 soon, developers and publishers are going to start panicking. And if they panic, well, they're going to panic in the worst way possible by trying to guess. The only good answer here, the only move that offers them any type of breathing room is to launch before Grand Theft Auto 6. Because if you launch after it, well, it's already too late. It doesn't matter how good your game is. There is a very real chance that nobody is going to be paying attention. People are going to be knee-deep into Grand Theft Auto 6, talking about it, streaming it, and living in it. Games that launch during Grand Theft Auto 6's window are going to be crushed. Games that launch directly after it are going to be ignored. And the studios that wait too long, hoping the storm will pass, they're gambling with time that they may not have. Some of these companies are already running on fumes. A delay of a few extra months could end up pushing some of these guys into bankruptcy, especially if their only shot at survival fails to land. I'm not being hyperbolic here. It's simple math. We've seen the budgets that these companies have been spending. And what's terrifying is nobody is safe. Not the indies, not the AA studios, not the biggest AAA publishers in the world. Grand Theft Auto 6 isn't just going to be a game. It's going to be a cultural event. It will pull everyone into its orbit, whether they like it or not. It doesn't matter what genre you're in or whether or not your game is live service, single player, or a turn-based cozy farming simulator roguelike, you will feel this game's presence because the players you're trying to reach are going to be somewhere else. Now, what's crazy is that Newzoo actually saw this coming. In a 2023 survey, they had found that most players were sticking to older games and older live service games, with Grand Theft Auto Online being one of the biggest ones. And that tells you something. A huge part of the gaming audience is not constantly chasing the next release. They are waiting for the next big thing, and when Grand Theft Auto 6 drops, that group is going to migrate en masse. Whole communities are going to shift overnight. Streamers are going to jump ship. Player bases are going to crater. Games that were holding on just fine are going to find themselves abandoned, not because they did anything wrong, but because Rockstar simply just showed up. I mean, this is a release that could literally pull people away from their hobbies, away from movies, away from Netflix, away from social media, away from their friends, and we don't actually have any modern data to be able to predict what that impact is going to look like. The last time this franchise released a mainline title was over a decade ago. The landscape is completely different now. Gaming has grown exponentially. Streaming and YouTube have taken over entertainment, and the audience is even bigger and more plugged in than ever before. Whatever impact GTA 5 had, well, let's just raise that by a few exponents. And what makes this all the more unpredictable is the current AAA landscape is weaker than it's ever been. Sure, we've had a few commercial successes. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 made some waves, even though it fizzled out thanks to Activision's ongoing identity crisis. Hogwarts Legacy had a massive year. Monster Hunter Wilds is doing great, but these aren't industry-shifting releases. In fact, many of the biggest breakout successes we've seen haven't come from the top of the food chain. They've come from the middle and the margins. Indie and AA games that have been filling the gaps from these bloated, over-compromised AAA failures. We haven't seen what a real AAA, megaton, no misstep juggernaut can do in this era of widespread volatility. but we're about to. And that's actually where I agree with the article. Grand Theft Auto 6 might rejuvenate the industry, but not in the way that they think. If Rockstar sticks to their tone and identity, the things that define Grand Theft Auto 5, if they don't try to soften it, don't sanitize it, don't try to thread the needle with authenticity and ideology, then it could reset the standard for what AAA games are supposed to be. If it meets expectations, that's already enough, but if it exceeds them, if it delivers a polished, boundary-pushing, narrative-rich experience that still manages to retain the soul of the franchise, it is going to blow a crater in the middle of the AAA space. Because suddenly there will be no more excuses, no more we didn't have the budget, no more live service demands compromises, no more we had to design the game for the broadest audience possible. We've already seen this happen. Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 3 were cultural tipping points. They were both uncompromising games that delivered exactly what players wanted, sometimes more in a lot of cases, and that shifted player expectations overnight. Players want depth, creativity, systems that respect their time, and experiences that don't talk down to them. And let's face it, most of the AAA space isn't built to deliver that. Not anymore. So if GTA 6 clears that bar, or worse for the industry, sets a new one, it's going to trigger another wave of discontent. Players are going to start comparing everything to Grand Theft Auto 6. They're going to start asking harder questions. Why doesn't this game feel alive? Why doesn't this game respect my intelligence? Why doesn't this game offer the freedom and polish that Rockstar proved is possible? And a lot of other studios aren't going to have any good answers, which means lower sales, which means more layoffs, and maybe, just maybe, the long overdue reckoning that this industry has been avoiding for years. So yes, Grand Theft Auto 6 could rejuvenate the industry, not by saving it, but by exposing it. We have never seen a game as successful as Grand Theft Auto 5 get a sequel. Take a minute to think about that. The impact of this game, the effects of this game are going to be so widespread and so earth-shattering that I don't think there's a way to properly comprehend just how big this release is going to be. I'm starting to believe that the reason why they delayed the game on PC isn't because they wanted to double dip, though that is a really nice side benefit that they're going to get. I actually think that they might be doing it because they realize the economic strife that this game is going to cause. I don't even know if I'm doing this story any justice. That's how big this game is. Do you guys remember how big Overwatch was? It was everywhere. It dominated everything. Everyone was talking about it. Grand Theft Auto 5 was 4 Overwatches. It was 4 Pokemon Blue and Red. It was 5 World of Warcrafts. It was 5 Call of Duty Modern Warfares. Like, my brain cannot figure this thing out. This is going to dominate everything. Conversation, TV shows, social media, YouTube, Twitch streams. You're going to see it everywhere. And the industry, as it is today, cannot overcome it. And this is the bed that they've made for themselves, especially the AAA side. Over a decade, not a single one of these studios have been able to make a game that can even slightly compete with what Grand Theft Auto 5 what Grand Theft Auto 5 did, except for Ark Survival Evolved. And that sold 1/3 the amount of copies. And I can't believe that these writers and journalists are talking about how this is going to bring the attention of more investors into this industry. That is the last thing that this industry needs. If these morons come in and think that there's a single franchise or company that can mirror what Grand Theft Auto 6 is doing, you have lost your mind. This series is incomprehensible. It's unquantifiable. You cannot touch it. And all of this is riding on the game being good, right? But to be honest with you, I don't even think that really matters, because they could essentially make the exact same game, update the graphics, and throw in a new map, and the game's going to go nuclear. And we know so little about this game, which is even crazier. Rockstar has said nothing about the game. We haven't seen really anything so far as gameplay or anything outside of the initial reveal trailer. And it's just going to be crazy. All I know is that I can't wait to see what it looks like. And I can't wait to see what effects it's going to have on the industry, because something this big, it's going to do something. That's for sure. Anyway, tell me what you guys think. Maybe you guys can figure this one out. I'm having a hard time. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, share the channel. Follow me on Twitch. Come watch me live. Talk to me on Twitter. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. Catch you guys in the next one.
Family, 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 family.